The topic of the day is chain abstraction. And with so many layer 2s and app chains providing cheap and secure block space, chain abstraction is now widely seen as the last remaining milestone before crypto can reach the mainstream. I'm Daniel. I'm the moderator of this panel. I'm one of the engineers building Hyperlane, what we call the open interoperability framework. We connect over 60 mainnets, and we hope to provide one of the fundamental building blocks for chain abstraction. We have on the panel today 4 very senior builders in the space. So let's start off with introductions. Can you guys please introduce yourselves and the projects you're currently working on?
Sure, I think we're going by the order. Hey guys, I'm Vaibhav. I also go by VC, one of the founders here at Socket. I think Socket's building the first chain abstraction protocol. What that means is it's not a network, it's not a new chain that does chain abstraction, but rather like an on-chain protocol that people can install on their chain and sort of have developers build on top of that smart contract layer sort of to become chain abstracted. We've been doing this for the last couple of years. You would see Socket today used by a lot of wallets, a lot of front ends, Rainbow, Coinbase, MetaMask, to sort of like allow users to swap assets across different networks. I think that's it for a short intro.
Hi, my name is Roy. I spoke a little bit about LightLink earlier in the hour. I'm one of the co-founders for our Layer 2 EVM blockchain network. We have a strong focus on abstraction, enterprise customers. We help projects like smart cities, digital economies, and recently Lamborghini as well. Keen to hear everyone else on the panel too.
Hey, I'm Mayur. I'm one of the co-founders at Arcana. At Arcana, we like to say that we are in the business of abstractions because we've been doing a bunch of different types. We've done wallet abstractions, gas abstractions, and now are solely focused on chain abstraction. And so we are building like a whole protocol with our own chain. And the idea is to be extremely opinionated and try and deliver a solution that works today. And yeah.
Hey, I'm Mantas, or sometimes go by Ash, in charge of technology at the Xion network. We have the goal of making crypto disappear. If it's something that you need to continue identifying with and shilling as part of your product, then we're still not doing our job correctly. So we are focusing on user engagement and how to bring non-technical consumers to not only our L1, but all of the other L1s.
Cool. Thanks so much, guys. So the first question, what is chain abstraction to you and why is it needed? Is it just for users? Is it for developers as well? Let's start from Mantas this time.
Chain abstraction is a means to an end. If you need to bring applications and users to only your network and you need to lock them in there, you might be able to drive a lot of user engagement, but you're not going to drive developer acquisition. You're putting this huge barrier in front of the success of your network and the applications that are built on it. They need to consider the other applications they can interact with on your network, if those are going to be enough for them, and if they're willing to take that limitation. They're usually not going to be.
I think that's pretty spot on in terms of how it should affect developers and chains and people in general. To us, chain abstraction is essentially, can you unify the user's balances and allow them to spend those unified balances near instantly in the most capital efficient way. And if you've achieved that, then I think you start giving a lot of freedom not only to users, but further upstream even to the applications building on it, because you literally don't have to like intervene and make them change their world and the way they are going about things. So yeah.
Mantas, you said something really interesting in terms of things will fade away and eventually we won't need things like the concept of chain abstraction anymore because it's being built, right? So I personally think fragmentation is one of the biggest issue with our industry. I was talking about earlier in terms of our competitors like Stripe and Apple Pay, right? You just tap and things happen, or you embed 26 lines of code and things, everything just handles in the back end. So I really hope to see that future too, where if we consider all the different chains, ecosystems as different economies, hopefully there's a World Trade Organization, there's standards that we work with, there's technology that we work with that can connect us all. So I think it's really needed and important part of our industry and conversation.
Yeah, all very, very solid points. I think how we think about it is sort of like chain abstraction allows applications and users to focus on things they care about while removing all the other things they don't care about. So today, if you use anything on chain, you have to care about n number of variables which you don't actually care about, which aren't relevant for the action you're trying to do. For example, do you have gas? Is my transaction going to get in? Is the bridge going to work? How do I swap? How do I bridge? Like really simple, basic things. You have to think about all of those things and not the application that you're caring about. When you're trying to swap, the only thing you should care about is the price. Everything else should disappear. So I think like broadly for us, it's about bringing application-centric thesis to crypto. Think about the application. Everything, all the other variables should be taken care of by the application itself.
Nice. And there's so many EIPs, ERCs, token standards, intent standards going on. I'm wondering if you guys think we still need more such innovations or like say proposals, or right now is just a matter of standardization before chain abstraction goes mainstream. And I saw one of your recent tweets, Vaibhav, about intent standardization being impossible at the user layer. Do you want to kick off the answer?
Yeah, I think like for me in general, I hate all standardization. I think for me, it's about let the market decide what standard wins. Then like right now I see the space sort of looking at ERCs like filing a patent. And I don't like that thinking ideology. I would rather have like multiple teams, especially in these like initial stages, sort of like go to market with their products, not standards, and have the market sort of like figure it out. Talking about that specific instance, I think intents are like extremely generic. And for any standard to take off, you need to be generic enough, but also for it to work, right? I think application layer intents are like too generic for them to work for off-chain agents. The purpose of like standardizing intents is so that all off-chain actors can understand them. It's sort of like saying all searchers should on day one understand all MEV leaks. But that just can't happen. Finding out MEV leaks is the problem. If fillers are able to solve everything, then what are they doing really? Like the only thing left is like providing liquidity and that's it. So I think like it's sort of like a misunderstanding, or at least like the specific ERC that all of us are thinking about is like a step towards that and not the destination.
Sure, yeah, I agree, right? I don't think we're there yet. So the gentleman from EigenLayer here previously was saying we will solve these problems in a year or year and a half from now. I strongly disagree. I think there's so much work to be done, right? So I think we need to work together as an industry, but which standard? So maybe those with strong opinions or strong leadership, maybe Vitalik should say, hey, let's actually go down this route, right? And maybe we'll rally against around that to push the industry forward.
Yeah, I think the last time Vitalik rallied around like a standard, we ended up with ERC 4337, which if you look at standards, they're meant to kind of emancipate. But we now ended up with a bunch of providers all locking in their users and the developers. It's a pure vendor lock-in. So, I mean, it just goes to show that when standards are rushed, you're going to end up with things that, are not well thought through and probably not the best design. So I fully agree with what Vaibhav was saying, and it was a banger of a tweet also, saying that it's just not going to happen right now. And I think the way in general, you can look to standardize is two ways. One is obviously, top down with saying this is the ERC, everyone needs to follow it, and then Vitalik and the likes put their weight behind it, and then everyone's like, oh, this is the way to do it. Or you just have a vast design space like we have right now, and everyone's trying their own different nuanced way, and someone will win out. Like, there is no standard way of building a DEX, right? But Uniswap is the most widely used DEX. So I think that's the approach we ought to take right now, because the design space is vast. I mean, if you just step into the chain abstraction little niche that we have, and you'll find that there's so many nuances, and I think that's the way to go.
I think this is the first panel I've been on where I've disagreed with every other person on it. I think waiting for standards is a crutch that we love doing here. We're just waiting for someone else to give us permission to do a thing. Standards are decided by winners, and winners are decided by users. So the tools for building these technologies have been around for a couple of years now. People just haven't been using them. It's popular now. We have whole events around chain abstraction. People are raising money on a buzzword alone. But the tools are there. You can do it today. Don't wait for someone to tell you that you're allowed.
Yeah, I mean, on this note, I'm curious, is, for instance, a token standard not useful, especially across VMs, where things tend to be very segregated? Or is that just another, say, impediment to shipping products?
I think my view is simply, whenever something's new, don't standardize it right away. Let the design space be explored. And once it's mature enough, then definitely standardize. Or when it's becoming things are becoming inefficient, then sort of start and push on the standardization direction, but not initially like a patent when the design space isn't explored. I think there definitely is a huge demand and need for standardization, but where and when needs to be thoroughly thought through. Otherwise, we end up with ERC20 approvals that all of us are trying to sort of hop around for several years.
Do you guys feel we're moving too slowly as an industry? I understand we need to have this design space, and we need to wait for careful considerations. I've been in tech for 20-ish years, right? And I've worked for very large corporates with hundreds and thousands of people. When you have a dev team of 5,000 people comparing to a devman 6, you can build a Facebook with 6 people, right? And you can go hardcore and build something awesome, right? And you can get it out to the market. So what are your thoughts in terms of, are we moving too slowly, waiting for things to happen, or?
I do think we end up moving slowly, but it's not for what you would intuitively think we are moving slowly for. I think what happens is, it's not that teams are slow, but we tend to over-optimize, in my opinion, trying to kind of get to almost this utopia of a product or a protocol or design or whatever. And because I think what happens is that, typically you have a new narrative, say chain abstraction, start to take off, hype ensues, and then once that starts to happen, then we form these little niches, you have chain abstraction, you have RWAs, you have ZK and things like that, and people within those niches are discussing and debating semantics, what's the right design, and etc. to death. And it's a lot of mental stimulation that we end up indulging in, that I think we should stop doing and start putting out products and start allowing people to start testing them out in the wild, literally. And I think one of the best ways you do that is by affording a vast design space, allowing people to be opinionated, or do frameworks like Socket and say, okay, you guys decide what you need to do. So either route, but put it out there and let people start actually building.
Agreed.
All right.
Finally.
So in a world where chain abstraction wins, I'm curious if you guys still see value in individual blockchains differentiating themselves Solana has parallel compute, then Cosmos has this modular approach to everything. How do you abstract that away, or do you leave that up to the users to choose? Or Mantas, do you understand?
It's almost like we're going to have to be competitive on features and usability instead of just hype and lock-in. So realistically, these chains are going to become commoditized, and trying to get ahead of that is very important.
Absolutely. I think just general purpose chains are, and this is my personal take, is that probably very few of them are going to remain. I think if you don't specialize or even hyper specialize as a general purpose chain, then you're not going to make it, in a sense. Because if you look at what chain abstraction brings to the table, is essentially a way for this future where apps just deploy on any chain, and then thereafter, a clone of that app on another chain is really not valuable. Because the best DEX, Solana DEX, is actually Uniswap on Ethereum, if you think about it, right? Because what you're essentially enabling is users having funds on any chain being able to access an asset on another chain almost instantly in a capital efficient way and spend that. So I could have Sol and spend ETH to buy a meme coin on Base, for example. That's the future, and then consequently you start to see, all of these sort of like situations where Aave has to build on all these different chains, because if they don't, someone else will. And when that goes away, then you're going to end up with very few chains, general purpose, same set of features really existing.
Yeah, I think the blockchain world is highly commoditized and highly saturated, right? So if you're building another, it's actually really simple. You can go to a chain as a service, roll up as a service provider and create a chain, in 15, 20 minutes. So it's really about how do you differentiate yourself, what kind of capabilities are you able to offer, who do you talk to, maybe it's a very specific problem that you're trying to solve. And when we look at the real world, how many different payment systems are there, how many different pods are there? There's a shitload of pods, but not many different payment systems. So it's really good to, explore from that perspective. And I think will eventually converge to, only a few.
Yeah, I think chains are going to be like super, super relevant still, but just in a different form factor, not like the form factor they are all used to right now. Like if you actually think about it right now, for a chain to like differentiate themselves, what are the variables they can offer? They can be fast, they can have more throughput, maybe that's like pretty much it, right? But once you have something like chain abstraction and you don't actually need to interact with direct users, you can differentiate on a lot more. Maybe you can make your state access better than anyone else, such that developers build a specific part of their application on your platform while they build other parts of their platform on other protocols. Like a really simple example of this today is like Celestia, right? Like Celestia is not a general purpose chain in its like natural sense, but more of a DA layer. And what ended up happening is like they specifically focused on this particular niche or this particular service, and they ended up becoming part of the transaction lifecycle of hundreds of rollups out there, or potentially will be. So I think like chains are going to become more specific, and a lot more chains are going to like spin up just because chain abstraction exists.
Yeah, sure. And the way Celestia gets abstracted, you could argue, is just lower fees for the user over rollup. But another specific example I have in mind is those like the blast bridge that offers yield. How does that get abstracted away? Where that's a very specific kind of feature. How do you show it or explain it to users? Do you just not? Or
some people won't. I mean, it's highly opinionated, right? Like, and that's why like chain abstraction sometimes you see it on your Twitter feed a little too much, maybe, because everyone has opinions on what should be abstracted, what shouldn't be, and that's completely fair. I think building products, building front ends is an extremely opinionated design space. I think different people will do it differently. Not sure if everything should be abstracted. I think like highly subjective. For the blast bridge example, I think someone else exactly asked me this question, and I told them it's about your models, man. What do you want to do? I think a good amount of projects are actually like taking that and putting it in their treasury, or sort of like doing token buybacks. I think all of those are cool models, and we should encourage all of them, other than the rugging ones.
I think it's interesting to see. Yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yeah.
In full agreement with what Vaibhav just said, I think if we try and make chain abstraction about everything, then it's going to be a problem also. And I think we have to be extremely objective at this point in time, so that you can actually say precisely and succinctly describe what it is and what the scope is, at least for yourself, and then consequently, just go ahead and attack that problem. Because the second you start to try and take in what everyone else is saying that chain abstraction ought to be and things like that, and then that's when you go into this whole mode of trying to be everything, and everything gets delayed.
Sorry, I spent a night on a plane, so you need a lot more coffee. So what I was thinking about before is we're in a really interesting sector of the market where there's different solutions for different people, right? Like for my mom and dad, for example, if and when they eventually get into crypto, they just want to see the highest yield. Oh my God, I'm going to use this bridge and I'm going to get $100 from this, or maybe there's a point which will convert to a future money or future interest. But we can also dig much deeper if we wanted to, and we celebrate that as an industry. There's different cool toys that we can play with, right?
I think it's going to depend a lot on who your user base is. If they know what the word blast bridge yield means, then it's probably important to explain it to them in some capacity. Most people don't know what that means. Most people never install the one banking app for the only bank they have on their phone. So it's going to depend. If you have that user base, then you will have a bit more trouble with chain abstraction as a concept, because they probably have strong opinions about a lot of things. But for the rest of us, we don't need to mention it.
I think might be a valuable exercise for all projects working in the chain abstraction space to sort of like put out something like a manifesto, or like 10 specific problems that we are trying to address. Like the one Arcana is working on seems like very relevant and important, where like your balances fragmented across different networks are now available to spend on any chain instantly. Like that's a very specific problem which multiple projects can solve for, right? So might be like a homework for all of us.
Cool. So yeah, let's go back to the theme, lessons learned. You guys have been building your products for a while now, and I think everyone's curious for you to share some of the lessons you learned along the way. Did you need to like change your approach? Go with what the market has been saying, or stay very opinionated? Let's start there.
From a purely technology perspective, we've found that a lot of the kind of example cross-chain tooling and methods might work from like a theoretical perspective, but under load, they fall apart in really weird ways. So we've had issues using like IBC-based interchain accounts under, throw 500,000 users on it in an hour, and a lot of those assumptions that are made around minor token transfers between chains, they don't really hold anymore. So a lot of the technologies that we're building have been built for asset transfer only, large-scale asset transfer. They're going to need to be adjusted for just general traffic and usage.
In terms of like stuff that we've learned, there'll be like a bunch of things. One, I think, is that we've almost gone back to this us personally to this Web 2 way of building, really. We started out as that, and then people said, "Oh no, this is not right. For Web3, you need to be different." And then we changed that, and then we realized that we were over-optimizing for a lot of things, and then now we are back to saying, quick, fast iterations, try and put it in people's hands, and try and see what they have to say, and then go back, fail fast, essentially, right? So that's one of the things that we really want to do, because I think it fully aligns with what's happening in the space. There's obviously a lot of noise, a lot of people trying to build in this space. So actually putting things in people's hands and letting them try it out and getting that feedback and moving forward is I think, of paramount importance. Because if we don't do that, then this will just fade away as one of those other, hype narratives just happen to come into the space, and nothing much got delivered on. So that is one of the things that we've learned, and we want to kind of keep optimizing for in the future. What we've also learned is this is a very small thing, is that users definitely don't want to bridge; they need to bridge, and so focusing our products more towards users and saying that this is where the problem lies, and if you solve for this, then everything else downstream sort of almost starts to solve itself in a sense. So just focusing on that one bit is something that we've also come to realize and say, okay, so this is probably the way we need to go about it, and that's the stuff that we're optimizing for, and that's what's next.
So long time ago, I read a book, The Lean Startup, Eric Ries. If you haven't read it, you should read it, because if you're building this space, person who's creating a business, it's really important. So the number one thing is go talk to your customers. And I feel a lot of times we theatrize, standardize, and we conduct all these, really interesting mental simulations. But go talk to your customers and see what they want. Build for an outcome. Talk to, and that's actually how LightLink started. We're a builder in this space for the past 7 years, and we keep on, hitting a brick wall with transaction fees, with, uncertainties. And the CTOs and CEOs that I've spoken to wanted certainty, wanted abstraction. So we try to abstract gas, create API-driven, on-chain transactions, and try to solve problems. We're not there yet. I don't think we truly know what the industry will be like in 5 years' time, with AI and all that. But talk to your customers along the way, and maybe we'll figure it out, right?
Yeah, tons of good lessons in there. I think for us it was about being more application-centric. I think December last year was when we were looking at our growth charts. People were doing like $2.5 billion worth of like bridging transfers via Socket every month. All charts were up and towards the right, but my support requests were shit. People weren't happy. And a ton of like issues, like wallet issues, RPC failing because due to which people aren't able to like approve on chain. People don't have gas. A ton of like sort of like auxiliary issues that Web3 developer would sort of like blame it. Oh, it's like probably like the graph is not syncing, or probably the RPC is shit. But really, like network cost is just cost to the end user. Like I think applications need to like sort of like chain abstract, essentially is what I'm saying, and sort of like verticalize across the board. Users don't care about network cost. Users don't care about like failing RPCs. They don't like things failing. So you gotta like take charge of it as much as you can as an application, and deliver the smoothest experience so that your users like are focused on using your application and not these auxiliary things. Second thing is more infra. App builders should build applications in this space. I think for some reason we've created this like huge divide in the space that, oh hey, we are application builders, oh hey, we are infra builders, and sort of like that leads to infra builders not understanding what needs exist on the app side, and apps simply don't exist, right? So a simple solution to kill both problems is that app and infra builders are really the same thing. Facebook built React, and Facebook uses React. So like really like be the consumer of your own infra and sort of like kill the divide between infra and apps.
Love that answer. And yeah, it ties in really well to my next question is, how is your tech stack supporting you in building chain abstraction? Have you had to build your own such tools? So I have a small list here. So Vaibhav is abstracting away EVM chains. Correct me if I'm wrong. Mantas is using the Cosmos SDK. Roy forked Geth. And Mayur is building at the SDK solidity level.
Oh, should I go first? Okay.
Please, yeah.
Yeah, I think like for us, when we started building Socket, we were going and talking to people and being like, hey guys, we are building this like really cool infra. You guys should check it out. They went to our docs, but that's it, right? So what ended up happening is like we decided to build like a showcase application that was like fun and good looking, so people did not have to like pass through the docs. And that became something called Bungee Exchange, which a lot of people in the space use now. And that just like took off really. And we started putting like more resources behind it, started looking at the support tickets, and started understanding the sort of like pains people go through. And these are like really small things, right? When we started building Socket, there was no way for people to get gas on their networks. And we came up with a thing that people call refuel today. So refuel is like literally something invented in our Discord back then. And people, when we first we literally just like put it out, and some Russian community people started using it for farming some tokens automatically, and we started receiving like support requests. That's when you knew. That's when you know it has like hit some chord. There was no explorer for what's happening between the chains. So funds left your wallet, and you were praying to the Lord that they arrive on the other one. Such like basic things, and people were on our Discord asking, hey, where's my transaction? So we built out the first sort of like interchain explorer, where it wasn't like just for Socket. It was for every bridge, every EVM, and we just like put it out as a public good. And today like Zach XBTC sort of like uses it to trace criminals who are trying to like hide their transactions by doing like bridging. So like really, I think for us, all of these are like lessons by building applications on your own infra. And it really exposes you to a different side of the world. And sort of like really like pushes your infra team to go faster, harder, because you can see users demanding it on the other side.
It's awesome to celebrate the permissionless nature of our community. You just take what you need and build something and tell the world about it, right? So I was asking ChatGPT how many developers there are in Web3, and it answered with 25,000. I don't know if that's true or not. It seems like a tiny number comparing to. Then I Googled, ChatGPT, how many developers there are in the world? 28 million. So there are substantially a lot more developers out there that shouldn't have the divide. I'm a Web3 developer. I'm a developer. You're building something cool, right? You're building for the future. So one thing that we've learned is to explore, to expose all the things that we're doing to the rest of the world. How can you create a set of APIs where all developers can interact with the blockchain? Maybe some Unity developers can call a Unity SDK to transfer an on-chain asset, or someone from Unreal can mint an NFT representing their gaming achievement, or whatever it is. So I think, yeah, it's a great community. It's a beautiful ecosystem, but let's think bigger and broader.
Yeah, on our side, I think like the way we sort of wanted to go about doing this, we actually started out saying let's use smart accounts, and because they are probably technically a better solution to enabling like chain abstraction for users, because you get a bunch of different benefits. I don't want to bore everyone with what is possible, but we decided very early on that we wanted to kind of build something that would solve a problem today. And if you look at it, smart accounts and smart contract wallets are a problem today. And so adopting, there's very low adoption, there's very high gas fees, there's vendor lock-in, and all of those sorts of things. So we said what we're going to do different is that we're going to focus primarily on EOAs, because that's what 99% of people have today. And it's going to be slower, it's going to be clunkier, and the UX is probably not going to be the best, but we're going to make some opinionated decisions on how we're going to just hide some of this stuff away. right? And we're going to make that call, and the way we're going to sort of back that up is actually put out our own product, like Vaibhav was suggesting everyone should do, is we put out a wallet that's built on our protocol. It's a standard EOA wallet. It abstracts, like basically unifies your asset balances across 5 chains and allows you to spend them as one in about 20 seconds or so, in one click of a button. Because what we've done is we've said, we're going to hide all of this stuff. People are going to maybe want to see it and things like that, but that's fine. This is our decision. This is how we're going to go about it. And this is how I think you actually get to put things in people's hands, because there is this very palpable aha moment when someone tries chain abstraction. And the second they try it or even see it in action is a game changer. It really gets the gears grinding. And I think that's the point we need to start getting to right now.
We're kind of lucky because the Cosmos ecosystem has had to deal with cross-chain communication for a lot longer than the rest of the industry has. And they've paid a lot in blood, sweat, tears, internet drama to get to that point. So we get to take advantage of a lot of this prior work that a lot of other L2s, EVMs are starting to adopt. They're seeing like, okay, this is where the world is going. We need to start accepting these kinds of things. The other part of this is because the Cosmos ecosystem was already a set of multiple teams that had to work together instead of one large foundation that just says how things are going to go. We already have to kind of operate in this cross-team, cross-company way, and that's where chain abstraction will have to go. Right? There won't be one company that decides what chain abstraction is. It'll be all of these teams working together, organic standards that develop as use cases are solidified, and it'll become a industry ecosystem-led effort, because it has to be.
Beautiful. So I'm curious, guys, what features are you or just products are you focused on building right now? What should everyone here be excited about?
I think for us, we are building Socket, and the interesting thing there is we sort of like allow application builders to now write app gateways, which isn't possible today, or like something that even exists. But the idea is like before users interact with your contracts on chain, you get to pass through all of their interactions via another contract that you write that sits off chain and is more global in nature. And all of your on-chain transactions to your on-chain contracts are routed via this app gateway. And you can imagine like multiple use cases for this thing. You could write auctions there that sort of like internalize MEV value. You can write specific invariants there that sort of like prevent your smart contracts from being hacked, and a bunch of these things. And as I was talking about Bungee before, it's an application we've built on top of Socket. Socket's using this app gateway system to build this liquidity marketplace, where you as a user, you come in and say, hey, I have this asset, I want that asset, and the marketplace optimizes the swap for you, right? It could be same chain, it could be across chains. It's always fully gasless, fully chain abstracted, a bunch of those things, right? So we are building like these two particular things.
Wrap it up quickly. Okay, I'll keep mine short. So to answer what we are building now, it's where do we want to go? I want to see retail payments. Like we go to a coffee shop, pay for something, using crypto rails as opposed to Swift or whatever other payment things that we're using. So backtracking to what are the things that we're building now leading up to that stage. So one of the technology we're building is ZK authentication, where you can remove a lot of the security risks, but using cryptography to address some of the concerns, and everything leading up to that feature. So keeping it short.
Yeah. So what we built right now is we have our protocol, which is on our own Cosmos app chain. It's on testnet, and we built this wallet. It's an EOA wallet. It's available on the Chrome Web Store. You guys should download it and try it out. Otherwise, just find me and I'll show you guys a demo. So what we are really excited for in the short to medium term is actually bringing this to a bunch of different sort of alt VMs, alt L1s, app chains even, and bringing this capability. So if you're a game chain, for example, that requires your native token for users to be able to interact, but no one's really going to buy your token on the open market to actually use it, and that's the big problem. But what if someone could just spend USDC and actually start to interact with your game chain? We want to make that possible. I think that's pretty cool.
Our job is to hide all of these concepts from app developers. They should never need to worry about it. All I want is one non-token, non-DeFi consumer application that takes advantage of some sort of aspect of a blockchain without being a gimmick or a copy. Give me one of those and we'll never have another conversation about when is crypto going to go mainstream.
All right. Thanks, guys, so much. And thanks, everyone, for attending. Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel.